Hey guys, in today's video we're going to share with you how to get your wife, your girlfriend, spouse, life partner, whatever your situation may be, if one of you in the equation is really not keen to overlanding or outdoors and that type of stuff, we're going to share some tips on how to get that person on board, a little bit more comfortable maybe with coming out and doing some of these exciting outdoor adventures.
We're embracing the next chapter by simplifying our lives, exploring our dreams, and connecting with what truly matters. Some common reasons that people don't want to go overlanding or camping or out into the wilderness is usually because of fears. We have found from talking to others that a lot of times people don't want to go overlanding or camping or be in the wilderness because maybe they grew up in the city, maybe they're not used to the wilderness in general, worrying about the, comforts. So this video we're going to go over some things you can put in place, some accommodations you can maybe make, just to make the whole overall experience comfortable for everyone and maybe even a little less scary. Stay tuned till the end because I'm going to be going over some specific things if you're bringing kids or maybe your fur babies like I do, as like a mama bear, to mitigate the fears and just make it a more comfortable, more enjoyable overall experience for bringing your kids and pets as well. It should go without saying, but communication is key.
What?
When you're getting ready to go on one of these trips, make sure you're talking with everybody in the group that's going, making sure you're kind of familiar with what their likes, their dislikes, their comfort levels are. It's super important.
Yeah, some of us like going up on top of mountains and cliffs and, on little tiny roads and things like that, where other people, that's not their cup of tea.
No, that is a big fear of mine. And Lance has learned, if we're gonna do that, he's communicating with me that we're gonna go slow, we're gonna take these precautions, and maybe afterward, there's a compromise, like we'll go do something you enjoy, like finding a river, a creek, or, take that hike by that body of water, something like that. It helps.
Yeah, and I think easing people into this, like, you don't want to go and take somebody out into like the back 40 jungle the very first time, especially if somebody's new to the outdoors. So you may want to start with something like, hey, let's go to the beach and camp, or overland for the first time, or let's go to a place, there's a great campground where there's a lake nearby, and those types of things where you've got facilities is probably a good introduction. You don't want to start off dispersed camping where you have to bring everything, especially with somebody new. I think it's important that you go to maybe an established campground where, doesn't have to be KOA, but maybe just something where there's, there's toilets and there's grills and there's garbages and maybe some showers or something like that, to kind of ease people into this whole, outdoor adventure type of thing.
It might be a good idea to bring some comfort items to make the whole trip overall more comfortable. Some people might like the folding chairs or a memory foam for on top of the mattress. In the high desert, it gets really cold, so if it's going to be cold, maybe bringing like extra cold weather gear. Things like the Sierra Madre heater that I put inside of my sleeping bag really helps with that. So
yeah, anything that can bring that extra level of comfort I think makes a big difference. So sometimes when we go out we'll bring wine and chocolate because that's what Jenny likes, or maybe we're bringing out fresh coffee rather than instant and we're grinding our coffee in the morning. All these little things, while it may sound frivolous to some people, to the person that's never been out, or it's a big step for them to get out and to do an overlanding or an adventure or camping, these little things, these little comfort items go a long way to make them feel more comfortable, to make it feel more like home, and to get them to want to come with and just go out and experience this. So those little things, while they may seem frivolous to some, it makes a big difference to other people that may not be accustomed to going outside and spending time in the outdoors.
Another big one for a lot of people is cleanliness. if you're like me, I was afraid of getting dirty and just feeling gross out here. But I know one of the first things that we do is set up our hand washing station so that I can have that handy for when I'm cooking and stuff. And, you know, using the bathroom, like, honestly, I've gotten comfortable now since we've had more experience with using the restroom out here. And the more I think about it, statistically, it's safer and cleaner than sharing, you know, public restrooms or like campgrounds that you're sharing restrooms with others, especially with this whole COVID pandemic.
You know, it's funny that we bring that up, but a lot of people actually ask that. We've had a lot of those questions. People have emailed us and asked, like, what do you do as a woman? You know, how do you deal with that stuff when you're out in nature? So it's a common question. And I think it is a healthy concern. And we added some other things too, Jenny, like the shower helps out, right?
Yes, for sure. I love the shower. And there again, I don't want a cold shower, so that's kind of a comfort thing for me. You heat the water up, which is really helpful as well. It's also important to me to bring hand sanitizer and disinfectant wipes, especially when I'm handling chicken or beef and things like that when I'm cooking. So these are things to think about as well.
Another thing too, you know, you think about when we talked about places that you may want to look again, if you're in an area where there's, say, you know, a river or a lake or hot springs, those are good places too, where you get that extra sense. I know it's not taking a bath or a shower, but I'm telling you, you know, a refreshing glacier river or some hot springs really does a lot for your hygiene and get the stink off you if you've been sweating, those types of things. So all those things play a factor, and if you can factor those into your trip, you know, we're gonna go stop at a hot springs on day 2 or 3. That's a huge morale booster, and somebody that maybe, you know, wouldn't want to go is really gonna enjoy those types of things.
If you don't have access to a river or any kind of body of water, or maybe you don't have a shower, there's also those wipes that really are helpful.
Shower pouch.
Yeah.
Shower pouch.
We have a whole nother video on that. You should check that out on hygiene and how to stay clean out in the wilderness as well.
Yeah, and those shower pouches are really good. I mean, you can think of it as it's a big, huge baby wipe that's the size of a towel, but it has all sorts of essential oils, and they really do. I mean, you really smell good after them, and it makes you feel great. It's not as great as a shower, but it's almost as good, I would say. So those are other options you can use if you don't have a shower, you don't have any water nearby.
And ladies, if you have any specific questions on, you know, how you use the restroom out here in the wilderness, just, you know, personal message me, check out our website, you know, you can message me on there, but reach out and we can talk. Another very common fear of a lot of people is just creepy crawly things. I know when we first found out that we were moving to the Southwest, I was not as comfortable anymore with camping on the ground. So our rooftop tent has really helped me feel more comfortable away from the rattlers and the scorpions and things like that, for sure.
Yeah, so the whole idea of a rooftop tent, or even, you know, if you go back, you look at Australia or even the safaris in Africa, was getting off the ground because there's so many creepy crawlies, snakes and things, scorpions on the ground. So it's getting yourself up off the ground to where you don't have to deal with those things as much. And that's where we brought this to the United States, and that's kind of become the common thing, that you don't want to be sleeping on the ground where stuff can get inside, especially in certain parts of the country where those are prevalent. And it just gives you that added little extra piece of security, which, you know, I've never had a snake crawl in my tent in the middle of the night on the ground, but, you know, it can happen.
I sleep better up there. On that note, it's also important to make sure that everyone has, you know, the appropriate boots, long pants, you know, long sleeves if necessary, to also protect from whatever might be living on the ground, whatever somebody might accidentally step on. You should check out our video that we did about hiking boots. I know that we wear more of a rugged pair of boots out in the Southwest here. It's really gives me that extra security living with scorpions and snakes, and also the terrain here is really rocky, so it helps with that.
And you have to remember that somebody that hasn't been out in the outdoors before, maybe they don't know this stuff. Like, you know, if you're taking out, we had a bunch of teenage girls we took out at one time with our daughter, and if they're all wearing shorty shorts and tank tops, you know, hey, that looks cute, right? But when the bugs come out, that's probably not the best choice of clothing. So you may have to just tell them that, hey, you need to bring long pants, you need to bring a long coat, you need to bring bug spray, you know, those types of things. People just may not know. Sunscreen, that's another big one. Just remember to, you can't just assume people know these things, because if they haven't spent a lot of times in the outdoors, they may not know.
As promised, guys, I'm going to go into some of the safety precautions you probably want to take with your little kids or your fur babies, you know, bringing them with on overlanding trips. The most important thing is you know your kids, you know your pets, right? So you need to pay attention to that, be communicating as a couple or as a family about those things, because one parent might know their kid a little bit better. Maybe they spend all day with them as a stay-at-home mom or stay-at-home dad. I don't know. That kind of thing. Some kids are fearless, so you don't want to be taking, you know, a little fearless toddler to like a hike that includes cliffs, for example. Just not a good idea. I wouldn't want to take that chance personally. We know our dog. We know when it's a smart time and not a smart time to let him off leash and be free. Just this common sense stuff is good to talk about and really respect one another's kind of instinct on that.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to remember though is you don't want to go too extreme to one way or the other. You don't want to be just letting your kids, you know, dangle off the edge of cliffs, but you also don't want to be so fearful or fear-based that you don't let your kids do anything. You know, we personally know people whose, you know, kids don't know how to swim because their parents were afraid of the water, or, you know, things like that. And I think one of the things we did with our kids from a very young age, we started taking them out to nature, and we used it as an opportunity to teach them about nature, to respect nature and to respect the outdoors and Mother Nature, because there are things that you need to watch out for. And from a young age, it not only provided educational lessons for our kids or history lessons, but it made them more safety conscious when they go out now. So they know, okay, if I'm out, you know, I need to watch out for rattlesnakes. I need to watch out for certain things. They just know that now. And I think that's a healthy part of that process, is exposing your kids to nature, to the outdoors, and teaching them and showing them. And over time, they're going to realize that, and they're going to start, you know, they're going to have the self-discipline to not get in those situations where, you know, it could be a bad situation.
Right. As you were talking, I was thinking about just things that, you know, kids might not know, like wet rocks might be slippery, so let's hold your hand across these, or just different things like that. Always bring a first aid kit. So you could check out our video on that. We have a lot of good things in our first aid kit that really came in handy when our dog had cactus all in him. We had our tweezers.
Yeah, so the biggest thing is, guys, you have to think of moderation. You don't want to just let them do anything, but you also don't want to be so afraid of everything that you never take them out there. It's a good, healthy balance.
We realize that overlanding and camping and hiking and all of these things are not for everybody. We're kind of the oddball couple. We both love the outdoors, so we share that interest, but that's not going to be every family, and that's okay. We know some friends that they join Jeep clubs and overlanding clubs, and that kind of helps with that. We have one friend who loves to hike, but he has a special needs son in a wheelchair, so as a family they don't usually do that so much, but he goes hiking with his friends. And
yeah, so it's always, you can find those places, go on to like Overland Bound, find your local Jeep clubs, your local overlanding clubs, or your taco club, whatever you got, you know, going on in your area, and get out with those people. And that's the same way you can still enjoy the outdoors and go out with some friends, and just something you may not be able to do as a family or as a couple, but you can still get out and do that. You don't have to give up your love of the outdoors for just because, you know, somebody in the family may not be interested in it.